Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. It's Monday. We made it through the weekend.
By the skin of our teeth, Brian.
Oh, man, what a weekend, dude. Like, just everything, that kind of came together over the weekend. Nothing came to fruition in terms of, horrible things, but we'll get into all that. 250th anniversary birthday of the United States is underway officially now, starting on Saturday. President Trump's birthday, Flag Day, 250th birthday of the U.S. Army. Happy birthday to all my Army dogs out there. How you doing, Zach?
I'm doing well. Thank you, darling. Doing well. Had a nice, relaxing Father's Day. I played some video games, talked to my daughter, talked to my mom. Talked to my other kids through Lisa. Ended up really, just kind of marveling at the insanity that erupted over this weekend. You said that there were, in terms of, I suppose, the rallies, right, or the riots. It wasn't nearly as bad as what people thought was going to happen. But I mean, there were certainly a lot of happenings, and I really enjoyed some of the more humorous interactions the protesters had with police. I'm hoping that you're going to show some of them this morning.
So I don't have much in the way of that.
Okay.
So if you want to have it ready to go, we are going to talk about all that stuff.
Yeah.
I visited my parents, my mom and my stepdad up in the Villages for Father's Day. And me and my stepdad went to go grab a battery for his golf cart because, they all drive around the golf carts up there.
Yeah.
And there were, quite a few protesters up in the Villages, which is a predominantly Republican area, probably 65-35 in terms of the split. But here's the thing. So we go and we get the battery. I change it out for him. And then I was like, hey, I'm going to take the golf cart now and run down there and interview some of these people and ask them, what do you think President Trump is doing right now that, implies that he's a king and all that stuff. At 12:33, they were all gone. Like just poof.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah. Because it was only a very limited planned protest. Like all of these people had other things to do. They just wanted to show up for that brief period, make sure that they got photographs, use that as a propaganda tool, and then go back to whatever their normal retirement looks like.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was kind of strange. But all right, before we get into today's show, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and talk about our first sponsor here, BadlandsCrypto.com has partnered with BlocktrustIRA to offer a secure path to convert your IRA or cash to cryptocurrency. The Patriots at BlocktrustIRA offer real managed accounts with revolutionary AI Animus technology that navigates the market with computer-based precision, reducing the risk of the volatile cryptocurrency market. Animus AI technology was named the #1 crypto trading strategy in the world in 2023 by Bitcoin Magazine. Whether you have a retirement account like a 401k or IRA, or just cash savings sitting in a bank making you little to no interest with best-in-class military-grade technology, BlocktrustIRA's clients are 100% insured for up to $200 million. In fact, at BadlandsCrypto.com, they're so confident in their ability to help you succeed that for a limited time, they're offering up to a $2,500 bonus in crypto when you open an account. Visit BadlandsCrypto.com and learn more about the best performing asset of the decade. Again, that's BadlandsCrypto.com. All right. Let's jump into the stories from the weekend. And the first one I want to start off with, and Zach, I know you are incredibly immersed in all of these stories, so I am dying to get your take on this story right here. The shooting in Minnesota. So the story is, in breaking news, the guy was just caught, but the story is this evangelical Christian figure goes off on a shooting rampage and shoots to a state legislator in Minnesota, then goes on and kills another state legislator at her house and her husband as well, and then gets into a shootout with the police, escapes, and then is eventually caught. I guess this morning is the breaking news that he's caught.
I mean, late during the evening or something like that. But yeah, I would say in the last 24 hours, he's been caught.
All right. So the guy's name is Vance Bolter. An outspoken evangelical Christian who traveled to Africa to tell his faith story and pointedly questioned American morals on sexual orientation. I mean, that kind of does go hand in hand with, Christian teachings, right? It's a sin in the Bible, but yeah. It says Bolter was a conservative who was strongly against abortion rights. Officials said he left behind an apparent hit list with dozens of names in his car after exchanging gunfire with police outside the home of one victim and fleeing the scene. Governor Tim Walz said the attack, quote, appears to be a politically motivated assassination. Hortman, one of the victims, was a top Democrat in the Minnesota House, and her husband, they were both killed at a nearby home. Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were also shot but are in stable condition after surgery. The names on the list were largely Democrats or figures with ties to Planned Parenthood or the abortion rights movement, and included Representative Ilhan Omar and Senator Tina Smith, as well as Planned Parenthood leaders. Bolter also had flyers for an anti-Trump protest in his car. That's the No Kings protest. Then I thought this was interesting. Bolter largely shied away from political posts in his publicly available social media feeds and did not discuss abortion rights in any religious speeches reviewed by CNN. In one talk he gave in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2023, he appeared sharply critical of LGBTQ rights. Quote, there's people, especially in America, and they don't know what sex they are. They don't know their sexual orientation. They're confused. The enemy has gotten so far into their mind and their soul, he said in a sermon. And then lastly, Bolter was recently having financial problems. His security firm had failed to find traction, and he was looking for work, including at a funeral home. And then we got this weird neighbor. We're going to play this clip here in a second, but it is worth noting that Bolter did serve on a state board with Hoffman and was appointed by Governor Tim Walz to this board twice, in 2016 and again in 2019. Yep. Walz put Bolter on the governor's Workforce Development Board, a group of business owners who recommend policies to the state government. In a letter, Walz said the post was in recognition to Bolter's, quote, integrity, judgment, and ability.
Just to add to that, his wife also worked for Tim Walz earlier in 2010.
Hold on. Have you confirmed that? Because I saw the LinkedIn of Jennifer Bolter, but they're saying that that's a different woman, that's not his wife.
No, I haven't seen it, but the LinkedIn for Vance Bolter also does not include everything that has been linked to him through other sources. So I'm not sure. That's just the preliminary reporting that I'm hearing.
Okay, and I'm with you on that. And you know, it's just, you know, through the AI machine that tells us what to think. They're saying that it's a different. This is actually a different woman. I could not confirm one way or the other whether that's true or not. But this whole thing just absolutely reeks, Zach.
Oh yeah.
You know, this guy is traveling to, you know, Africa, the Middle East, all over the world, doing these sermons. He's appointed to a board by Tim Walz twice, a workforce board. Then we find out that his business is actually failing and that it's not a successful business, but he's on this board giving, you know, advice to the governor on, you know, legislation and regulation for, you know, the business community in Minnesota. This doesn't make much sense, man.
No, he appears to be sheep dipped to me. I mean, besides his failing business, working as a manager at 7-Eleven and then also full-time at 2 funeral homes. I saw a video of him saying that he would work at 2 different funeral homes. He's also directly been connected through publicly available documents to properties all over the United States, hundreds of thousands of dollars in property. I mean, as somebody who is not failing, I would still have difficulty dumping, you know, close to $1 million or more into a series of properties, including $500,000 home, a decrepit church in Iowa. Obviously, he's got the stuff going on there in the Democratic Republic of Congo. None of it makes any sense. And they've only just connected him to being a Republican in recent years. And for him to go murder the one Democrat rep in the House that voted to end the unrestrained spending of taxpayer dollars on illegal immigrant health care makes absolutely no sense from an ideological point of view. Now, it's obviously, I think that everybody wants to see the manifesto, right? I mean, what does this manifesto say? Why is it that they held all of these No Kings flyers? I mean, none of it makes any sense. And I'm very, very glad that somebody didn't murder him at the time that he was found in those woods, because this gives him an opportunity to speak. And did you also see that the prosecutor did not charge him with premeditated murder?
No.
Like it's like a lesser charge, even though he had like a list and he dressed in a disguise. I'm also not convinced that the body that we see on that ring cam is the body of the man who gave himself up in those woods. The man in the webcam and excuse me, the ring cam. And granted, you know, you've got perspective and he's wearing all of this tactical gear, but he doesn't look to be as big as the man who was caught in those woods. And not just the whole thing stinks to high heaven.
And he's wearing this creepy mask. I mean, you know, let me, we're getting a little bit ahead here. Let me jump over and play the clip first and foremost of the representative that you're talking about. And this is a Democrat that actually had just voted to basically stop funding healthcare for illegal immigrants.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote. And we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
DFL Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman emotional following the House's adjournment from a special session Monday. Hortman was the lone DFL lawmaker to cast a vote to cut Minnesota Care access for undocumented immigrants. It's a move she made with a heavy heart.
I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota.
The bill.
Okay, so there we see, you know, there was a, you know, provision in the bill. And by the way, just want to throw this out there. That's how it's supposed to work. You know, you don't get everything you want in these bills. You don't just overload these budget bills with, you know, pork. And sometimes you got to make concessions in order to get a fiscally responsible bill across the floor. I'm not saying, you know, I don't know any of the details about that bill itself other than, you know, what we just heard right there. So, you know, obviously, and also rest in peace. I mean, that's political violence like that. Violence, period, is never acceptable whatsoever, whether or not it was this guy that did it. get into, I mean, this is just weird, man. Like, so the guy wears a mask like this. Okay. There's another image here of him, you know, wearing this weird, like John Malkovich type mask. I have no idea.
I was thinking Walter White.
Walter White.
Either one works.
So this is his roommate, I guess, or his housemate or something, which is one of the reasons, Zach, why I immediately questioned the wife thing. You know, that he has this kind of he it sounds like he lives in a weird kind of community with you know, a few roommates that are guys. I just didn't see that as maybe she was an ex-wife. You know, I'm not sure.
As far as I'm aware, they're still married. They have five children together. They own a home that's like 50 miles away from wherever he's living with this roommate or a dish. I mean, this is the only roommate I've seen, so I don't know that there's any other ones. But I mean, that's not normal. Right. I mean, like how many married men do you know that don't live with their wife and their 5 children, especially if they're having monetary problems?
Right.
Like, why would you maintain 2 households? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, here's what the roommate says.
I love you guys. I made some choices, and you guys don't know anything about this, but I'm going to be gone for a while. Sorry. Take your time. Maybe dead shortly. So I just want to let you know I love you guys both, and I wish it had gone this way. I don't want to say anything more and implicate you in any way, because you guys don't know anything about this. But I love you guys, and I'm sorry for all the trouble this has caused.
So this Vance guy drives up there in a security car that looks, you know, almost identical minus the wording on it to a police car.
Mm-hmm.
Says Praetorian on it, which was the security firm that they worked for. He's telling his roommate, I'm probably going to die. You know, he's down and out on his luck, financial problems, all that stuff, marital problems, perhaps. Why the mask? Like, everything else that you did is, you know, out in the open. You confessed to your roommates, said you're going to die. You drove up in a company car. Why the mask?
Yeah, doesn't make any sense. Like, there would be no need. I mean, if anything, the mask makes it less likely that whoever is inside the home is going to answer the door. I mean, yeah, that's just me. But like, if I see some guy dressed like a cop wearing a mask, I'm just going to start blasting through the door. Like, there's no possible way I'm going to be opening up that door. So yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all.
I want to share, I don't know if you've seen this, but Daily Mail has this clip of him, you know, I guess giving one of the sermons in whatever African nation that he was in at the time. And this feels very disingenuous to me. All right, check this out.
Yeah.
I met Jesus when I was 17 years old.
J'ai rencontré le Seigneur quand j'avais l'âge de 17 ans.
And I gave my life to him.
Et j'ai donné ma vie à Jésus-Christ.
And about 4 months after that,
et 4 mois après,
I met the Holy Spirit, and I went all over my hometown knocking on every door.
Et je suis parti dans ma ville frappant à chaque porte.
I said, I got saved.
Et je disais, je suis sauvé.
Jesus saved me.
Jésus m'a sauvé.
Here's my whole testimony.
Ça,
you can have it.
I don't know. That just, here's my whole testimony. You can have it. I don't know.
Feels performative, but yeah. I think that everything that we're being told about this guy has been massaged, and none of it seems to be natural.
Well, let's jump into the Praetorian, which, again, they want us looking at this, Zach.
Oh yeah.
Tell me any time that you've ever seen, you know, like a voicemail or something like that being released so quickly to the public. I mean, the manifesto for the Nashville shooter, we're still trying to fight to get, you know, that manifesto. But here we have the Meet the Leadership team with this guy still on it, and that website's still published, as if authorities haven't yet seen this and, you know, either archived it and taken it down or whatever the case may be. But then listen to the description here. Dr. Vance Bolter has been involved with security situations in Eastern Europe, Africa, North America, and the Middle East, including the West Bank, Southern Lebanon, and the Gaza Strip. He brings a great security aspect forged by both many on-the-ground experiences combined with training by both private security firms and people in the U.S. military. He has worked for the largest oil refining company, the world's largest food company based in Switzerland, and the world's largest convenience retailer based in Japan. This guy has spook written all over him.
Yes, he does. 100%. I don't see how you can come away with anything else.
I mean, are we real seriously? Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Africa. Yeah. I mean, everything that's just taking place over there. Democratic Republic of Congo. The CIA operation taking place over there. That's been in the news over the last year or so.
Mm-hmm. All of your favorite regime change hotspots.
And now he's going around assassinating political. I don't know, man. Here's the appointments. This is the 2019 to 2023 appointment by Governor Walz, and I think I have the other one as well. Maybe I don't.
I think the first appointment was actually by the governor before Walz, because it would have been just before Walz became governor.
Yes, it was by Mark Dayton. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
here's something else. The community where Vance Bolter lives, apparently nobody knows him.
Really?
Yeah. He's like completely a ghost.
But
you want to see the clip?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Let me copy that.
I took my own advice this week and unplugged, spent time with my family. So
good for you.
All my take on the news is, like a brief X, posts and stuff like that. And this morning in the prep. So,
all right, go ahead and share my screen.
Yep. It's up.
Okay.
What we've been seeing throughout Green Isle here, we've been here all day yesterday and now all morning now. We haven't been able to find anyone in Green Isle who knows Vance Belter. I even went to a BP gas station yesterday to talk to the woman at the counter. The woman said she's worked there for many years. She'd never seen Vance Belter. She saw the pictures of him on the news. He didn't look familiar. His name didn't sound familiar. So we haven't been able to find anyone in Green Isle who knows this man.
Wow, that's totally normal.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, all right. Well, and this is kind of a secondary. Well, this is definitely a secondary story, but, and again, I'm going to catch some flack for this, but, the boneheaded Brian Stelter is getting absolutely ripped apart on X right now for this post that he put up saying, and it all points in the same direction. And this is referring to a post by another individual that said, in the last week, Marines were deployed in an American city. The president has called for the government to be arrested, and the Speaker of the House has called for that governor to be tarred and feathered. A senator has been pinned and handcuffed, and 2 state legislators have been shot in their homes. And then you got the message from Stelter. And people are just railing on him. Stephen Miller said, what Brian Stelter did is worse than what Terry Moran did. And then Nicholas Fondacaro, who is the Newsbuster founder, said the Terry Moran standard should be applied to Brian. Woo. And again, I think what Stelter said was boneheaded and stupid. But again, I'm going there again, folks. I'm supporting Brian Stelter's right to free speech. And I don't think he said anything that was that controversial there.
I mean, the thing is that I think what this hits on, and the reason that Terry Moran was let go, is because the mainstream media is no longer, and hasn't been for a very, very long time, a disinterested third party. They are not simply reporting the news. They are pushing propaganda, and they are trying to drive public opinion. And if you're going to purport to be a newsman, then that's not acceptable. And it never was acceptable, but it was allowed for a very, very long time. And the truth of the matter is that these companies are afraid of what's going to happen to them now that somebody else is steering the ship, now that they're not the ones that are in control. And I think that it's a matter of self-preservation. I don't know that Brian Stelter's going to lose his job. I mean, CNN's probably the worst offender, but you know, I think that I think that these people ought to change their behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. They're not doing it from, you know, an official CNN, you know, account or anything like that. You know, I would hate for that same scrutiny to be placed on me, where if I have an opinion on something and I express it on social media under my personal account, I would hate for that to automatically get lumped into, you know, either Badlands or Gateway or anyone that I'm associated with.
Well, but to be fair, would either of us say something disingenuous and inflammatory designed to push people in the wrong direction? I mean, I'd say that we may be commentators, but we are also objectively looking for truth and not looking to force public opinion in one way or the other.
You know, that's actually a pretty good segue, because I've been very critical over the weekend of, you know, Netanyahu's decision to strike Iran and then the conflict as a whole. And while I think everything I'm saying, to the best of my knowledge, is based in fact and truth, and or at least questioning the official narrative behind all this, I would, you know, and that's one of those topics where you can say anything, and if it's not strongly aligned with Israel, you're immediately cast as an anti-Semite and put to pasture, like we're seeing right now with Tucker Carlson and so many others. So yeah, I would want that same, you know, kind of leeway, so to speak, in being able to post what I want to post freely. And so that, again, I don't mind the firing and the suspension of Moran, but like I said, the thing that crossed the line for me was Caroline Leavitt and the official White House post saying that we've reached out to ABC to ask them to investigate Moran. That is absolutely a violation of the First Amendment. Now, they haven't done anything similar for Stelter. So, you know, it is what it is. It's just other people expressing their own First Amendment. So I'd be suppressing them if I said, don't do it. But at the same time, I just hope it doesn't escalate to the point where we're censoring ourselves online for fear of, you know, being terminated.
I understand. In spirit, I agree with you. I think that the freedom of speech is sacrosanct here in the United States, and it ought to be. Just again, where I think that we differ from the mainstream media is that they LARP as objective observers, reporting on the facts when what they're doing is anything but. I think that their disingenuous portrayal of their statements as if their opinions are the facts and what they believe to be happening, or what they are trying to force the public to believe on what is happening. I think that that's where it differs. And I think that in order for them, it's like, tell us that you're ideologues. Okay. Tell us that you're commentators, that you're not reporters, because you're not reporting the news. You're providing commentary based upon what your ideology is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, let's jump into the Israel-Iran conflict as it goes into what, like day 5 or whatever, day 4. Donald Trump truthed this out on his birthday. President Putin called this morning to very nicely wish me a happy birthday, but to more importantly talk about Iran, a country he knows very well. We talked at length. Much less time was spent talking about Russia, Ukraine, but that will be for next week. He is doing the planned prisoner swaps. Large number of prisoners are being exchanged immediately from both sides. The call lasted approximately 1 hour. Would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that one.
Oh, yes.
He feels, as do I, that this war with Israel and Iran should end, to which I explained his war should also end. And then we got another truth post here where President Trump says Iran and Israel should make a deal and will make a deal, just like I got India and Pakistan to make, in that case by using trade with the United States to bring reason, cohesion, and sanity into the talks with two excellent leaders who were able to quickly make a decision and stop. Also, during my first term, Serbia and Kosovo were going at it hot and heavy, as they have for many decades, and this longtime conflict was ready to break out into war. I stopped it Biden has hurt the longer term prospects with some very stupid decisions, but I will fix it again. Another case is Egypt and Ethiopia and their fight over massive dam that is having an effect on the magnificent Nile River. There is peace, at least for now, because of my intervention, and it will stay that way. Likewise, we will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings now taking place. I do a lot and never get credit for anything, but that's okay. The people understand. Make the Middle East great again. Love it.
I feel like it's difficult to argue with, I mean, like, President Trump's comment about getting involved in the war. A lot of people took that to mean that, oh, we're going to bomb Iran on behalf of Israel. That is not what President Trump said. And I don't know why anyone would believe that based upon his past actions in all of these conflicts, that that's what you would be taking away from it. I mean, I immediately read it as the United States brokering the diplomatic solution that must exist, because without that, of course, Israel and Iran are just going to continue to bomb each other.
Absolutely. Tomorrow we're going to have, Gordon will be on at his normal time and we'll do the geopolitics with him. So we'll get much more in depth into this, but there is a lot of Russian interest, obviously, in Iran with their oil exports and imports and their, energy dependency, so to speak, on Iran. And so it is going to be interesting in the long term how Putin responds to this. President Trump has kind of drawn the lines and said, as long as you don't strike us, we're staying out of it. But Iran has countered that, and we'll get into all those stories here. So I'm not going to touch too much on the Iran-Russian relationship. I'll save that for tomorrow with Gordon. But let's go ahead and jump into this story here. This story is from, I believe, Reuters. Trump vetoed Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader, U.S. officials say. President Trump vetoed an Israeli plan in recent days to kill Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. A senior U.S. administration official says, quote, have the Iranians killed an American yet? No, until they do, we're not even talking about going after the political leadership. Top U.S. officials have been in constant communication with Israeli officials in the days since the Israelis reported they had an opportunity to kill the top Iranian leader, but Trump waved them off of the plan. It's funny, they listened to, President Trump in that regard, but they didn't listen when he said, don't bomb Iran. Mm-hmm. Netanyahu, in an interview with Fox News' Brett Baer, says, quote, there's so many false reports of conversations that never happened, and I'm not going to get into that, but I can tell you, I think that we do what we need to do. We will do what we need to do. And I think the United States knows what is good for the United States. So a little cryptic message there from Netanyahu on this. We're getting a lot of kind of secondhand conversations. We got one here from Rachel Scott, as well as from Donna Bash. Rachel Scott says, I spoke with President Trump briefly this morning. This was yesterday on June 15th, and said, I asked him about those reports that Israel urged the Trump administration to join the war with Iran to eliminate its nuclear program. Quote, we're not involved in it. It's possible we could get involved, but we are not at this moment involved, the president said. Asked about Putin serving as a mediator in the conflict, he says, quote, yeah, I would be open to it. He is ready. He called me about it. We had a long talk about it. We talked about this more than his situation. This is something I believe is going to be resolved. And then I think there's one more part here. Hold on. Oh, wait. No, there isn't. Let me jump over to the Dana Bash one because this one's a little more interesting. Donna Bash, whatever the hell her name is, says, I just spoke with real Donald Trump. This was on June 13th. So this was Friday before we went live. But somehow I missed this. President Trump then said, quote, we, of course, support Israel, obviously, and supported it like nobody has ever supported it. Iran should have listened to me when I said, I gave them, I don't know if you know, but I gave them 60-day warning, and today is day 61. They should now come to the table to make a deal before it's too late. It will be too late for them. The people I was dealing with are dead, the hardliners. He would not specifically say which people he was referring to. Asked if this was a result of Israel's attack last night, President Trump responded, they didn't die of the flu. They didn't die of COVID.
Of course. I mean, he's not saying anything that isn't true. The United States has historically propped Israel up. The billions of dollars per year that we give them have allowed them to sort of fortify themselves within the Middle East. And I think that the only way that the United States gets involved in the conflict is if Iran starts attacking American targets. And at that point, it's inevitable. But up until this point, this is Israel going after Iran. And if President Trump wanted to allow Iran to be taken off the map, then it would be possible for that to happen. His stopping the assassination of Khomeini allows for continuity in the government, while at the same time forcing Iran to come back to the table with a different set of negotiators who are perhaps a little bit more interested in their own self-preservation. And that's, we got to move forward. We got to stop killing each other.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the post where Netanyahu said that in one blow we will eliminate Iran, which a lot of people are taking as a veiled threat of using nuclear weapons. It's I don't know, man. There's so much going on over there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let me jump into this story here from the Iran Wire. Israel's infiltrated Iran's highest offices. We've talked on this show about how Iran has the second largest population of Jews in the Middle East. I think it's like 1 in 5 Iranians are Jewish. And I'm wondering, how many of them are working behind the scenes, working for a little six-letter agency. A senior Iranian diplomat said Israeli agents have infiltrated the, quote, highest offices of Iran's government through corruption, enabling strikes that killed top commanders in their homes and headquarters. The diplomat said Friday's targeted strikes showed extensive infiltration and intelligence gathering. Quote, the type of operation that Israel carried out on Friday morning is the result of months or even years of preparation and intelligence gathering. It's not something they planned and executed in just a few days or weeks. The source said that finding security breaches is now a higher priority than retaliation.
And I think that's probably what they need to concentrate on. If they want to guarantee and preserve their own sovereignty, then they'll make sure that they don't have any rats left in the henhouse. And, here's the thing. I'm sure you've heard the reports of Netanyahu directly providing weapons and money to Hamas in an effort to keep the instability in Gaza, and because that's good for the Israeli government. The ultimate goal that they have is to remove Palestinians from that land and to take it over. They have a greater argument to do so if there is continued terror and attacks that are coming out of Gaza. The same is true of Iran. If they want to remove Iran entirely, then the easiest way to do that would be to ensure that Iran would remain a state sponsor of terror, or that they would continue to be antagonistic in the region. If they've got spies all throughout the government, then how do we know who's making these decisions to behave like morons? It really makes me call into question exactly who's calling the shots.
Yeah, you got to have the enemy, right? In order to keep the war machine rolling, you got to have the enemy. You got to have the perpetual enemy. As you mentioned, Netanyahu openly defended or supported, I should say, Hamas over Fatah in the 2006 election. That support has not, wavered in any way. I don't want to say in any way, but that support overall has not wavered. As early as 2019, Netanyahu was openly supporting $30 million a month from Qatar going into Palestine in support of Hamas. Our own government, I talk about this all the time when October 7th just kicked off, through the UNRWA, Joe Biden and Barack Obama through the UNRWA was sending $250 million a year to Palestine. Then Donald Trump immediately was like, he reduced that almost to nothing, and then ultimately did reduce that to nothing, followed by Joe Biden almost immediately reinstituting that fund and leading to potentially leading to, I don't necessarily know that it was directly related, but the October 7th attack, the quote unquote attack. And so, there's no question that you have to have the bad guy over there in order to, perpetuate the military industrial complex. One of the things, and this is something I had a lot of driving over this weekend and a lot of thinking. And, I can't for the life of me find the sauce on Iran. I know we're told in our media and everything else like that Iran is this big bad boogeyman. And people say, well, Iran has sworn to annihilate Israel. Well, that was in response to Israel bombing Damascus and killing 2 generals in Damascus.
Yeah.
Bombing an Iranian embassy. We do the same thing. President Trump does that all the time. President Trump says, if you F with us, you're going to find out, right? We will destroy you if you attack us. Why is that not okay for Iran to do the same thing? Man, it's
a double standard, right? Largely it's not Iran that's controlling the messaging that's going out in the media. It's not Iran that's coming forward every 6 months and saying that they're 10 days away from developing a nuclear weapon. I mean, that's been Israel telling us that, consistently every 6 months for the last 20 years or so.
30 years.
30 years. Okay. Now, a user over on YouTube says that there's only about 10,000 Jews in Iran. Now, I don't know about the 1 in 5 that you said there, but I confirmed Iran does have one of the largest Jewish populations outside of Israel in the Middle East. I don't know what any of the other ones are, but yeah, it's still a sizable Jewish population there.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. From Times of Israel, this is interesting. Allegedly, this is what CNN is reporting. Quote, Iran reserves the right under international law to respond decisively to this regime. Any country that attempts to defend the regime against Iran's operations will, in turn, see its regional bases and positions become new targets. So basically, Iran is now saying, because the U.S. has I think we have 2 destroyers in the Mediterranean right now that are aiding in shooting down the missiles, aiding the Iron Dome, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with, if Israel's being attacked and you're doing nothing more than defending attacks against another nation, I'd be okay with the U.S. shooting down Israeli rockets going into Iran. That's keeping the peace. But if we get attacked for that by Iran, quote unquote, by Iran, hashtag USS Liberty, hashtag Gulf of Tonkin, man, is that what kicks off the global conflict? Somebody attacking keyword somebody attacking one of our destroyers in the Mediterranean.
So I go back to what I said earlier about those spies that are working inside Iran. Again, just because we're told that Iran has attacked a U.S. freighter or an aircraft carrier or something like that, doesn't mean that it's actually Iran. So any response from President Trump, I would expect to be measured and to perhaps be loud and obvious, but not necessarily to be devastating in a body count sort of way, because we truly have no idea of being able to tell who did what. Israel is very fond of using false flag attacks to blame radical Muslim perpetrators. They've done it for over 100 years. God, 150 years. Go back to even before Israel was founded, and they were doing that stuff in the Middle East because they were trying to drive the British out.
Speaking of the British, you see this article, Keir Starmer confirms military buildup in the Middle East as Europe urges restraint. On his way to the G7 summit in Canada, Starmer said, quote, we are moving assets to the region, including jets, and that is for contingency support in the region. I will be clear-eyed in relation to our duties and obligations as the prime minister. We do have longstanding concerns about the nuclear program that Iran has, and we do recognize Israel's right to self-defense, but I am absolutely clear that this needs to de-escalate. And our leaders don't have that same sentiment. Check this out.
The worst possible outcome for the world is for the Iranian nuclear program to survive after all this. How do you destroy their program? Through diplomacy? I prefer that, or through military action. If diplomacy is not successful, and we left with the option of force, I would urge President Trump to go all in to make sure that when this operation is over, there's nothing left standing in Iran regarding their nuclear program. If that means providing bombs, provide bombs. If that means flying,
busting bombs,
whatever bombs. If it means flying with Israel, fly with Israel. The worst possible outcome for the world is to take the Iranian nuclear program on and leave it standing. That will be a disaster.
Let me see. I got one more, I think. Yeah, I got one more.
All right. On the 61st day, the Ayatollah publicly said he would not shut down a single centrifuge. He said he would build more centrifuges. He would make more enriched uranium in order to make more nuclear weapons. That was effectively, Maria, a giant middle finger at President Trump. But it was also a message to Israel, we're not going to stop. And if you don't act, you're going to find out when we've achieved success with a mushroom cloud in the skies of Tel Aviv or New York or Los Angeles. And so Israel acted. They acted with extraordinary efficacy. We've seen 720 military strikes across Israel. They have decapitated the top leadership of Iran's military. They've taken out the head of the IRGC. They've taken out the chief of staff of the armed forces. They've taken out multiple nuclear scientists. They've leveled Natanz, which is the chief research area where they're doing much of the enrichment. And Israel is committed to getting the job done. And understand what the job is. The job is to prevent Iran from being able to acquire nuclear weapons. It's not conquering Iran. It's not turning them into a democracy. It's taking away their capacity to commit mass murder. And this week, they've made enormous progress in getting that accomplished.
Dude, I'm still old enough to remember yellow cake.
Yeah.
Iraq. I'm not falling for this shit again. I'm sorry, guys. When you have the DNI, just last month, you have the DNI here. We'll play the clip.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
So you have Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, last month telling us the intelligence community, our intelligence, is saying that not only do they not have a nuclear weapon, they're not even pursuing a nuclear weapon, and that they haven't reinstated the nuclear program from 2003. We're not talking about like 2018, 2019. This is our intelligence. So where is Senator Cruz, Senator Graham? Where are they coming out? The warmongers, some of the biggest warmongers out there, not Cruz as much as Graham.
Yeah.
Where the hell are they coming off, propagandizing us and saying this is all about Iran getting a nuclear weapon? Nuclear power would be one of the most, would be a massive accomplishment in the Middle East in terms of, modernizing that entire region. This is something that has been spoken about. I think General Quast has talked about this, the ability to get not necessarily nuclear energy, but energy in general, how crucial that is to developing civilizations and developing regions. And we're just trying to set them back another, 100, 150 years.
Well, they're not going to need to produce oil or purchase oil if they have nuclear energy. I mean, there's a bunch of different aspects of this that are good for varying factions. And I think that the most likely outcome that the region is seeking is to force Iran into this large-scale conflict, trying to defend themselves and doing whatever they feel they must in response to attacks and missile strikes. Because that ultimately puts them into a position where they could potentially be wiped off the map. And if they're wiped off the map, then there's no one in the region that's going to challenge Israel or to be propping up any of the other regimes that they have propped up in the past.
This propaganda, it's like people and no offense, but to some of our older listeners, but my personal experience with people that I know personally, in my network, the older crowd can't get behind this idea that perhaps, our media and everybody's lying to us. They do for everything else. For everything else, they're like, oh yeah, the vaccine was poison, elections are fake. Like they're behind everything else. But the second you talk about Iran, oh, they're a nuclear power and they're going to destroy the whole world if they get a nuclear. Come on, guys. You know how many countries out there have nuclear weapons, right? India, Pakistan, no problems there, right? Israel won't join any non-nuclear proliferation treaties, by the way. No inspections, no idea whatsoever what capabilities. They do have the Samson option, but ignore that. It's all Iran. It blows my mind that people can make the leaps that they make in terms of the facade that has been put before us for so many years, decades. But that's the line in the sand for them. They can't possibly believe that, there can be stability in the Middle East. And I think that might be a reason, they talk about this attack having been planned out for so long. Perhaps that's the reason Tulsi Gabbard said that in that congressional hearing, because President Trump was wildly against Iraq and Afghanistan. He knew that we were going in there under bullshit pretenses of WMDs, right? And the George Bush era of everything else. He cut the head off of that by having Tulsi Gabbard say that the intelligence community says that they haven't been, pursuing nuclear weapons. He got out in front of that big time with that little clip right there, so we'll see.
Yeah. The one thing I'm confident that President Trump is not going to get dragged into World War III. I think that he's savvy enough and they have enough intelligence to show that that's the goal. Clearly. I mean, Israel I think they were hoping that, much like past conflicts, the United States would just immediately jump in and we would participate. And we would co-sign. And instead, we distance ourselves from it, which I think was the smartest move they could possibly do. Makes it less likely that Iran is just going to start indiscriminately bombing U.S. bases or State Department targets, that sort of thing. And we need to remain removed from it. And I think that any interaction that the United States has, it needs to be diplomatic and brokering a peace and bringing people to the table, because that's what President Trump has done best since he's come back into office on the global stage.
Amen. And then I thought this was hilarious. They don't propagandize this at all. Thomas Massey put this out over the weekend. Did IDF post a video from 8 months ago and claim it depicts missiles launched last night? Yes, they did. Yep. They did. And it's still up on their page. By the way, it did get community noted. Not saying that there aren't attacks. I have a good friend that I served with that is over there and has confirmed to me that there are nightly, barrages, Iron Dome, and all the hoopla. We finally got some video of the hypersonic missiles, and I got to say, I'm not as impressed with them. I thought these things were hypersonic the whole way. It just seems like they're kind of hovering, and then when they attack, they just speed up and attack. Are you gathering that same?
I don't believe anything that I'm seeing on these videos. I mean, so many times people are sharing these videos on X and they're like, oh, this, major strike just booms and blah, 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 blah. And people just share it without any sort of critical thinking. And they're like, look at this. And then you come to find out oh, this is from a movie. Wait, this is from a year. This is from 10 years ago. I don't believe any of it.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. The only reason I do, I believe, my buddy that's over there, actually over there, the video I saw of him, I can tell it's his voice narrating it. And he sent that to me after seeing something I had posted on, I think either Facebook or one of my other, platforms. He had sent that to me and said, yeah, I'm here. It's not as bad as everybody's saying it is, but there are actually, missiles and all that other stuff going on. So, all right, let's talk about the military parade. Got a couple clips here to share. I thought this was badass. They had the U.S. Army uniforms from every major conflict back to the American Revolution in the parade. Check this out. That's so badass.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Got the Desert Storm guys there. Obviously, the Continental Army.
World War II or World War I. Really.
Yeah, that's pretty badass. And then this one here is probably just the coolest thing ever. President Trump swearing in the oath of enlistment. Now, I imagine this is an oath of re-enlistment because these guys are already in uniform. Usually when you take your oath of enlistment, you're not yet even at boot camp or basic training. So, but either way, this is badass.
Mr. President, First Sergeant Norton reporting for duty, sir. Ready to commence the ceremony as directed.
I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. Congratulations. Congratulations.
All right. So AZ Lady said they were re-enlisted. They left because of the COVID jab and are returning. The ones in the black shirt, I imagine, were probably poolies. I think they call them poolies in the Army as well, but recruits maybe. That's badass though. That he swore in the COVID returnees in a public way like that. I love it.
It's very cool. Very, very cool. Love seeing it.
Yeah, so that's all I got on the parade. I mean, the event was good. I watched probably about 20 minutes of it. I was in the chat and I was getting a little flack because I was taking jabs at the Army because they were not marching very good.
I saw other people saying the same thing. They were like, I'm watching the formation and I was going crazy.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, what is that? You guys look like we used to call it either a gaggle fuck or like we had a bunch of different words for it in the Army. My first video ever, Zach, my first viral video, I should say ever, was like in 2017 or 2018 on Facebook. I was at a parade in the South End of Boston for St. Patrick's Day. And I was in the crowd and it was freezing cold. And there was a Marine band came by and they were in their dress blues, left, right, left, perfect formation, everything else looked amazing, stopped, played a song, marched on. And then right behind them comes the sailors from the USS Constitution that's based in Massachusetts, in Boston. And they just looked like absolute dog shit. Like they're walking around, like waving to the crowd and like pumping up. And they're trying to stay in formation, kind of. And just jokingly at the end of the video, I turn around and I look into the camera and I go, Navy, bunch of nasty fucks. And that's the way we talk to each other. For those that don't know, that's how veterans talk to each other. We make fun of each other all the time, the time. And it went viral. It got like 3 million views. I had people like, why don't you serve? And I'm like, bro, did you not see USMC on the beanie that I was wearing? But yeah,
people just, oh God, people online are so annoying.
Yeah.
Well, like
I admittedly though, I was disappointed in kind of how they were marching. I did not think that was a very good representation. And people are saying, well, they're too busy training. We all know how to march. Trust me. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. You give us a 2-day refresher course and we'll be left, right, left drill field all over again. And
let's just theorize here. I think that one of the largest narratives coming out of the left was that this was some sort of overt statement of Donald Trump's fascism. Okay. Like, and maybe they were like, just, go ahead and have some fun with it, guys. Feel relaxed, march, but like, don't look like too on point, because otherwise then they're going to take that video and place it right next to videos from World War II or something like that. Who knows? Maybe they wanted them to look a little bit looser.
That's a fair point. We didn't want the high kicks of the North Korean army and the Chinese, the women all stern, like,
Yep.
But dude, the whole point of drill is instant obedience to orders. Right?
I know.
and troop movement. And, it is what it is. It is what it is. It was a great gesture. It was an awesome event. And everything went pretty well. Apparently there was like 45 people that were hospitalized, and some other things. But overall, a good event. Good event.
Definitely.
Let's get into the No Kings Day. But before we do that, let's get a word from our next two sponsors real quick. Guys, have you tried 1775 coffee yet? Speaking of our nation's founding, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, and they only have 1,000 units available. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic, a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler that says, "I don't take life advice or caffeine," from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. 1775coffee.com/studio. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. All right. And let's also check out our good friends over at Save Pulse. Whoop. There we go, guys. Today's show is sponsored by Save Pulse. Save Pulse is dedicated to keeping you and your family healthy with top quality medications like amoxicillin, azithromycin, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine at unbeatable prices. The streamlined ordering process makes it easy to stock up on all of your health essentials. And now, with exciting news about fenbendazole showing promise in cancer research, they proudly offer this alongside antibiotics and viral care meds. Don't wait. Prepare for any health scenario today. Get your supply and stay ahead of the curve with Save Pulse. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/meds and use promo code Save Health at checkout to get a 20% discount on orders over $100. All right. Check them out. badlandsmedia.tv/meds, promo code Save Health. All right. Let's get back into the news. And let me remove this. Bam. There we go. All right. From Fox News, 3 people in custody after shooting at No Kings demonstration in Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City police said one of the victims was transported to a hospital with life-threatening injuries. The shooter suffered a gunshot wound and was taken to the hospital with serious injuries under police watch. But of course, Zach, it's too early to tell if this was a politically motivated and whether those involved knew each other. The shooter appeared to be walking alongside the group of marching protesters. There is a video posted here of the shots ringing out.
Oh my God, that's a gun. That's a gun. Come on. Come on. Get out.
It doesn't seem like if a gunman wanted to have a mass casualty event or something like that at one of these events, 3 gunshots wouldn't fit the bill, right? You'd be firing a lot more shots. It'd be more random. You'd probably be able to hit somebody if you really wanted to. And that's in line with this one right here. Man drives into crowd of protesters at No Kings rally in Virginia. Police say 21-year-old Joseph Cheklik Jr. intentionally drove an SUV into a crowd of protesters in Culpeper, hitting one person. Again, I mean, mass shooting, right? 3 gunshots, 1 person shot. Driving through a crowd and you only hit 1 person. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it ended up pretty decent overall. I mean, the shooting could have just as easily been politically motivated as a targeted assassination. Somebody who didn't like somebody else and knew they were going to be present in the crowd, and that perhaps the number of people would give them the cover they needed to escape. Didn't happen. Yeah, just as this kid who drove into a crowd of people, he could have panicked. You know, I mean, like, you know, suddenly you're surrounded by a group of people who are coming to beat on your car. You know, I mean, like, if that was down here in Florida, he would have been just fine, which is really too bad.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. You know, I hadn't even thought of that, Zach. Like, is there not video of this? And there's video of all of this stuff. All of this stuff is on video. Nobody was filming, or excuse me, nobody was at that event without having a camera out at some point or another filming what was going on. You know, my wife is out in California right now, and she called me and or texted me the other day, and she's like, yeah, there's a lot of people at the protest I'm at. I'm not going to say which city she's in because I don't want to, you know, dox her or anything. But she's like, there's a lot of people at the protest here, and she's out there with her family, and her family's very liberal. And you know, I was worried. I'm not going to lie. You know, I texted her back as it was getting later in the day, and I was like, are you guys still there? And I was prepared to tell her, like, I really don't want you there. You know, once the sun starts going down, it's kind of like, you know, like a vampire movie or something. Like the sun goes down and and the creatures that lurk in the shadows come out in full force. But that didn't happen in this event. So, you know, I do want to give, on social media, on X, a hat tip to a lot of these protesters. It was widely a peaceful protest from what I've seen reported so far. And support that.
Very much could have been a total massacre all around the country. But, you know, I think that a lot of the systems of support that had previously been in place for these people have been removed, and they have maybe not as much money to go around to hire the paid agitators. And the ones that have been hired seem to be in the larger cities, and the police seem to have been on top of it pretty much from the beginning. I mean, they were aware of just how bad this could have been, and they did not want a repeat of 2020. So, you know, people who attempted to engage in violence, they were taken down pretty quickly.
Yeah. Do you have some clips you wanted to share?
Really, there was just the one of this protester in LA who was hit by a rubber bullet in his testicle. And he now has a shattered testicle.
I didn't know you could shatter a testicle.
I mean, you get hit with a rubber bullet, and then basically it just completely here. Go ahead.
I didn't even want to know that.
So ICE protester in LA was seriously injured after a rubber bullet to the groin shattered one of his testicles. It sucks to sit down. I have a bruised left testicle, and my right testicle was shattered. Martin Santoyo, 33, says he was shot in the groin by police from about 2 to 3 feet away. He is now home in the hospital, but still can't walk and remains in recovery. Doctors told him to return in 5 to 8 days to evaluate his condition and determine when he can return to work. Now, what I understand is that he was on the front line and he was reaching into his bag, he said, to grab a bottle of water. But as we've seen, these bottles of water have been frozen. They've been thrown at the police. I think that he effed around and found out. But here, I'm not sure what this clip is from here, or if this is him talking about the injury, or if this is from something else. But here we go.
And then they start shouting, "Move back!" But I'm still like fixing myself up, my backpack, my bike, and then they just push me. And I'm just instinct. I tell the cop, like, don't push me. I'm already moving back. And then the cop right next to him had a gun and just aimed and shot. He was like, 2-3 feet away. After I got hit, I couldn't really walk. I was just like too much in shock. And then they're still pushing me. I know some other protesters were trying to help me like walk, but they're still pushing them too. And everyone's shouting like, "Yo, he just got hit!" Like, let him breathe, like. And Like I needed to sit down for a bit, but they just kept pushing. Right now I'm at home. The injury was sustained to my groin. I have
You're nuts, dude.
bruised left testicle, and my right testicle was actually shattered.
You don't look like you're gonna.
They said that they somewhat fixed it, so it should have some function, but it's still very badly damaged.
Well, I mean, the police tell you to move and you start getting smart. These people have this sense of entitlement. All right. I mean, if you're on the front lines of a protest, you better be wearing a cup, or like, wear some type of protection. Like, don't just expect that everything's going to be fine. I mean, how many times have we seen the police, hit somebody in the groin with a beanbag or with a rubber bullet? I saw another report of some guy who allegedly lost an eye, but all I saw was somebody holding something to their face and blood, but I don't know if it was real blood. And I've seen a number of other images of people being carried away and people caterwauling and screaming and saying, oh, we've got an injured. But, I mean, these people have for too long been able to push back on the police, shout, scream, spit, throw things, and they've had pretty much nothing happen to them. And the police, they needed to lay down the line and make sure that people complied. And this guy fucked around and found out. Really no other way to put it.
How much do you think, the relatively peaceful nature of the protests that took place over the weekend, how much of that do you think was in part because of President Trump's response to LA and, the court rulings that allowed the federalization of the National Guard to stay in place over the weekend? I think that was a massive thing.
I agree.
The Ninth Circuit allowing that to happen. And I think it sent not just that, but the effectiveness, or at least the diligence in which they're going after these protesters to figure out the sources of their funding and everything else like that. It's kind of like they're on notice now that it's about to get really nasty, and the more and more resources that they're able to put together to point back at the funding sources on this, the more likely that there could be some sort of criminal action taken against these organizations that are putting these dangerous protests, or dangerous riots, not protests, together. Because what we saw this weekend, again, I can't stress enough, good for them, man. Like hat tip. I don't agree at all with the No King sentiment, but I haven't seen any reports of anything that got out of hand.
No. And I don't think it's going to do anything to push public sentiment away from President Trump. If anything, they're only hurting their own cause. And I think I totally agree with you. I think that if the response in LA had been any more anemic, then they would have attempted to push back a lot harder, and they would have done a lot more damage all around the country. But the knowledge that National Guards were mobilized ahead of time and that President Trump was not willing to just allow this to happen, I think that had a profound effect on their attitude and morale when they showed up to these protests.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into this story here. New York Times: Trump shifts deportation focus, pausing most raids on farms, hotels, and eateries. It says the Trump administration has shifted the focus of its mass deportation campaign, telling immigration customs enforcement officials to largely pause raids and arrests in the agricultural industry, hotels, and restaurants. The guidance was sent by email by a senior ICE official, Tatum King, saying, quote, effective today, please hold on all worksite enforcement investigations, operations on agriculture, including aquaculture and meatpacking plants, restaurants, and operating hotels, he wrote in the message. The email explained that investigations involved, quote, human trafficking, money laundering, drug smuggling into these industries are okay. But it said, crucially, that the agents were not to make arrests of non-criminal collaterals, a reference to people who are undocumented but are not known to have committed any crime. Quote, we will follow the president's direction and continue to work to get the worst of the worst criminals, illegal aliens, off of America's streets, said Tricia McLaughlin, a department spokesperson, in the statement. Now, this is kind of an interesting pivot, and I had an idea on this, Zach.
Yep.
When the raids came out about, going to the construction sites and all this stuff, I was critical of it. And I got a lot of flack for it. People were like, oh, they're illegal. Yes, they absolutely are. There's more important targets that they could be going after before they're going after the guy that's been here for 10 years, working at a construction site, paying taxes. Most of them pay taxes, most of them. Should they be getting citizenship? Yes, absolutely. 100%. There's no question. There's no question but go after, like, we don't have all the MS-13 gang members. We don't have all the people with criminal records, violent criminal records yet. Let's focus on them right now. And what I was wondering, Zach, what do you think the possibility is that somebody in this bureaucratic agency, ICE, DHS, somewhere in there that is, avidly anti-Trump, instigates these raids at construction sites like that, conveniently has people there filming it and everything else, and then you put out this narrative in the media that, hey, he's going in and just everybody, rounding up every single person at a job site, and he just shut down the student housing at FSU that was being built by this construction company and all this other stuff. And it just weaponizes the people who were kind of on the fence about the immigration. Well, the open border was absolutely dangerous, but, at the same time, should we be taking the person that's been in the country for 10 years as, kind of whatever? I don't know, man.
So I definitely have a couple of thoughts. First of all, number one, anybody who's here illegally has no right to be here illegally.
Amen.
They are a criminal, and they ultimately should be removed. Number two, I don't think we need someone who is anti-Trump inside ICE or Border Patrol to set this up. I think that I've always said since the beginning, this is the low-hanging fruit. These are the illegals that I care about the least. All right. However, we needed to show the American people that something was being done. And what better way to do it and, cause the left to just get into a tizzy than by going after that low-hanging fruit. Now, by switching the narrative here, President Trump removes the complaint that the left has about these ICE raids. Now you have an explicit presidential moratorium on going after the working families and the good tax-paying illegals. All right. So now they're not going to be able to use that as an excuse when we end up at one of these gangland transnational criminal companies that have been engaging in human trafficking, weapons smuggling, money laundering. And he has essentially removed that as a point of contention for them. So now explicitly, every single raid that's being done will be the gang members, the human traffickers, the drug dealers, the worst of the worst. And if these people continue on with this narrative, then they can point back to the fact, well, no, that's not happening. That's not happening because President Trump explicitly forbade these agencies from going after people who are just working at Mexican restaurants or whatever. People that the left was claiming, were the ones who were being swept up. They're not being swept up. We're only sweeping up pedophiles. We're only sweeping up human traffickers. We're only sweeping up drug dealers. And eventually you'll get all of those people, and then you'll be able to work your way back down and sort the problems with all of the other illegals. I'm much more comfortable with the administration going after the people who are the greatest risk to life and limb of the American people. And I think that the way they've done it, they've proven that they're willing to do what needs to be done to go after people wherever they are. They are still going to suggest to all of those people that they self-deport. I mean, we'll give you $1,000. We'll pay for your plane ticket. We'll even let you apply to come back in immediately so that you can just go right back to work. But you have to get a legal status. All right. So those people, I think, will go ahead and do that. Like, man, I'm not going to wait around and just see if ICE is going to come knocking. I'm going to take them up on this offer. I'm going to make $1,000, get a free plane ticket, go say hello to my folks, and then I'll come right back into the country. Meanwhile, the administration is sweeping up all of the people that are truly dangerous. But, every single one of them needs to be addressed. But I would much rather that they go after the people who are the greatest danger to society first.
Yeah, I'm with you. The low-hanging fruit was a good way of putting it. And, you know, I would like to see the resources first focused on the most violent and the worst of the worst. And I think that ultimately that's what they're doing. A couple stories get put out, like the construction site raids and all that stuff. You know, and I see the chat saying, you know, they don't pay taxes. Guys, I live in South Florida. I am constantly around, you know, Mexicans, Guatemalans, like South Americans, Central Americans. I worked in landscaping for 12 years. I've seen all of it. Yes, they are paying tax. Not all of them, you know, not by no means, but there are many, many of them that are paying taxes. Now, again, I'm with you. I think the people that came over in the Joe Biden open border policy era, they obviously need to be first on that list with the criminal illegals. All of them are criminals. I understand that. I'm saying the violent criminals. And this is a shift from President Trump. So you guys can say what you want, but it is what it is. President Trump is going in that direction, it seems like. So
yeah. And for anybody who was just listening and not watching the video, I mean, like when I said tax-paying people, I did air quotes, and I was quoting the radical left in giving a reason why these people shouldn't be swept up. Certainly, there are people who are paying into the system because they've been given numbers by the Biden administration, or they're using the stolen identity of a dead person or another American citizen. But again, at the end of the day, anybody who's here illegally has no right to be here illegally. And I think that ultimately they will be removed. I just want the most dangerous members of that group to be removed first.
Yeah, I don't think people understand. If you guys ever come down to South Florida, go drive down in Homestead. Okay. Homestead, Florida. And that is where a big chunk of our agriculture and everything comes from. Go drive out in Apopka, Florida. Go drive out in the West Coast, in east of Tampa. I'm trying to think of the city. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But if you go out there and take all those migrants out, you're going to starve.
Well, but here's the thing, Brian. I mean, there's an official channel to bring those people in as seasonal migrant laborers. I mean, just looking at a field, we have no way of knowing whether or not those people have done it the right way. Know, and so I think that, I mean, maybe they need to do some type of retroactive thing. If you're running a farm and you have all of these people working there, and that half of the people did not do it the right way, maybe there's a program to allow people to do that. But I think that it has to involve going back to where you came from and then coming back in immediately to begin work again. But there's got to be constraints on it. I mean, we can't have this unrestricted porous border that allows for people to come in anytime that they want to and escape any sort of rules or regulations. But I also think that there are Americans that would be willing to do jobs that a lot of illegals are doing. And, I've seen the construction industry has been ruined, in my opinion, because they've gone away from skilled American labor to this skilled illegal or migrant labor. It pushes Americans out of the job market. It makes it difficult for them to support their families. And a lot of these builders are fantastically wealthy because they don't have to pay the migrants as much, and they know it. I mean, they will make as much money as they can, and they will screw over Americans. And I think it's really too bad. I did a story the other day about this guy, Vince, down in Key West. Okay, he's got a roofing company, and all of his guys were illegal, and he knew it. Okay, and they all got swept up, and he's crying because now, I'm not gonna be able to do roofs anymore. Like, you kidding me? You're telling me you're not gonna have? There's nobody else that wants to be a roofer? I mean, like, there have been a number of times in my life where I had to transition, do other things, and I did roofing in the meantime. Like, there were always crews that were hiring. If you're willing to get up there, you can get up on a ladder. You got a hammer, you got a belt, boom, go to work.
Yep. It's a very difficult predicament that we've been put in by, decades of horrible immigration enforcement policy, but especially over the last, 4 years. It's going to be a tough situation. And President Trump has to navigate this, in a way that's going to not interfere with, the economy of the country as much.
Hold on. CJ Trump says white people won't do it. That's bullshit. I am white. I have been a roofer.
Well, I mean, are you white? You're like the same color as the brown background. Maybe that's why you're so tan, because you're doing roofing.
Hey, man.
Roofing is a tough job. No, I can say it is very difficult. Working in landscaping for as long as I did. The South American, Central American population that works in there, they tend to stick around. White people, they rotate in and out. I mean, they'd be there for like 3 weeks and then they're gone. 3 months, gone. A year, gone. Nobody really stuck that out so it's interesting. We'll see. Let's see what else we got for today. I want to jump over to this story and then we're going to pretty much wrap up here. Oh, you know what? I got to cover this. Speaking of the worst of the worst, have you seen this story from the DOJ? Rwandan immigrant arrested for concealing role as perpetrator of genocide after fraudulently entering the United States. Did you see this story, Zach?
Yes, I did. Yes. The Rwandan genocider.
Federal grand jury in Ohio returned a 3-count indictment charging Rwandan national Vincent Ntezigiyimifura. I have no idea how to say that. I'm just going to call him Imfura. With lying on U.S. immigration and naturalization applications. Specifically, the indictment alleges that he concealed his role as a perpetrator of the genocide in Rwanda in 1994. Imfura participated in the genocide that took place between April and July in 94, when members of Rwandan's major Hutu population killed hundreds of thousands of the country's minority Tutsi ethnic group in an attempt to eradicate the group. Imfura was allegedly a leader and organizer of the genocide against the Tutsis in the area in and around Gihisi and Nyanza, provided weapons, transportation, and material inducements, and directed them to search for and apprehend people to be killed based on their status as Tutsis. In 2018, so this is 24 years later, Imfura submitted an application for a replacement green card and obtained a new fraudulently procured green card with an expiration date of 2029. Imfura allegedly used his fraudulently procured replacement card to get a driver's license. So, okay. we had a genocidal maniac, I guess, laying dormant in the United States for 24 years. Nobody ever caught this.
You know what else I heard? I heard that during the Biden administration, the FBI never bothered to arrest a single criminal on the 10 most wanted list.
Really?
But since Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have come in, they've already swapped the list out once. Like, everybody got arrested and they're already on to a whole new set. So weird, I mean, it's just there was no attention paid to this stuff. And this is one of the reasons that we have a problem with this job market issue. Okay, because we've created a system that rewarded people doing it the wrong way. And the same is true with this guy being able to allowed to come into the United States and just kind of hide out. People, I think that a lot of guys assume that they're not going to be able to get jobs in certain fields because it's going to be dominated by illegals. I think that these illegals assume that they're going to be able to come into the United States successfully, set up shop. If they get a job, of course, they're going to stick with it because, like, you're here illegally. Like, you found somebody who's just going to allow you to work for them and do it illegally. You're a former genocidal general from Rwanda and you get into the United States illegally. Everything you do after that point is illegal. You're going to continue to do it and just, hey, let's hope nobody finds me. Here we go. But obviously they're looking now. They're looking for people who are committing immigration crimes. So let's go.
Good. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. 2 more stories. This one is quite disturbing. In Ontario, a cross-dressing male was driving kids on a school bus at a Catholic school.
Yeah, that's wild.
Dude, have you seen this video?
So you picked up the kids dressed like that? Yep. Okay.
Why do you call your bus the Lolita line? Why is it called the Lolita line? Why is it called the Lolita line? Somebody's gonna talk to sick people.
Like when people are mentally sick, you can't.
All right, so we'll stop it there. But Epic Times reported that the Ontario School Board removed that driver now from wearing a pink skirt from an elementary school route.
Yeah, it's so messed up. But I'm not surprised it happened in Canada.
Yeah, so the school was St. Michael the Archangel Elementary School in Ontario. The driver says, I do this every single day. Nobody ever questioned like why there's a dude in a dress driving kids and calling the bus Lolita line. That's an important name, not just from the Lolita Express from Jeffrey Epstein, but Lolita, the term in general, is a term that's used to refer to sexualizing children.
Yeah. So I when the bus goes by, I looked to see if it said Lolita line on the bus, and it didn't. It had the school district's name. So I'm not sure if that parent was like jabbing at the person who was dressed in a dress. I mean, I think that obviously there has to be there is some kink going on here. Like a normal person does not want to dress up in a schoolgirl uniform like a Disney princess to pick up children on a bus. I mean, like, that's messed up. So I don't know if the parent was just making a jab at him or if there has been some communication between the bus driver and parents. Like, oh, it's the Lolita line. Get on. We're going to school, kids.
That makes it 10 times worse.
It does make it 10 times worse. So that's just why I'm trying to draw the distinction. I don't know, like, where that came from, but I mean, if it's a jab, I think it's a good jab. And I'm glad that person got suspended.
Yeah. All right. So there was an insurrection at the Capitol again over the weekend. I don't know if you guys saw this.
We got people breaking through the barriers to the Capitol building. We got people breaking through the barriers to the Capitol building.
These are no king protesters, allegedly.
People that are breaking through the barriers of the Capitol building, rushing the Capitol steps. We got people rushing the Capitol steps right now.
Obstruction.
Yep. All right. Was this the guy that gets knocked over in the beginning? Is that a cop?
No, that was a protester. Yeah,
Okay.
He launched over the barrier and they grabbed him.
Yeah. Another video. Nick Sorter put this video out. Same thing. Burp walking them out. Make sure they go to solitary confinement, right? Solitary confinement, isolated, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They get the J6 treatment, the J6 standard, right?
Where's the outrage, Brian? Where's the outrage from the Democrat politicians calling for
lost our democracy, Zach? We almost lost our democracy. Do you realize how serious this insurrection is?
Oh my God. I'm literally shaking.
And last story, just a little fun story, because I know you'll have some more insight into this as well. Check this out. Scientists detect mysterious radio waves coming from beneath the Antarctic ice.
Yes. This is a very, very interesting story.
It says the mysterious radio waves were discovered by the Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA. During the experiment, the researchers analyzed signals traveling to Earth using a variety of instruments, using balloons to send the instruments high up into the atmosphere. The goal was to gain new understandings of cosmic events throughout the universe. The reason Antarctica was the site of these experiments was due to the little to no interference from radio waves. However, the researchers found radio waves transmitting from under the ice. It's coming in from inside the house, under the ice. Stephanie Wissel, associate professor of physics, astronomy, and astrophysics from Penn State, revealed the discovered radio waves while searching for a particle known as neutrinos. The radio waves should have been undetectable and would have to go through thousands of kilometers of rock and would have been absorbed into the rocks. And then lastly, quote, so this is a double-edged sword problem. If we detect them, it means they have traveled all this way without interacting with anything else. We could be detecting a neutrino coming from the edge of the observable universe, Wissel said. The researchers cross-referenced their findings with 2 other experiments that found their results did not match up. So what they found were not neutrinos, but something else entirely. Wissel said that there's been some theories that this could be dark matter, but it can't be confirmed and remains a mystery. Everything in there is from a Rick and Morty episode, by the way.
That's too funny. Yeah, I mean, as far as it stands right now, it's just an interesting anomaly. Because the way it's being reported is that it's coming from under the ice, which would indicate that there's something broadcasting from underneath the polar ice cap. Well, I mean, that plays right into the idea of secret bases underneath the Antarctic ice, ancient structures, perhaps advanced civilizations. But, they're looking for something coming from outside, but then they're finding something coming from inside. I'd be really interested to know some specifics about the radio waves themselves. And, is there any message that's detectable within them? And if they can tell that they're coming from inside the Earth, then they should be able to pinpoint the origination of them. And this is definitely a story that I'm going to be following pretty closely because I find it pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's just Hollywood's prepared us for this moment.
There's been so much talk about a fake alien invasion coming soon, and supposedly 2027 is the year that everything's supposed to break. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens.
I mean, you had, Transformers, where they landed under the Arctic ice and were dormant there for how long?
Oh my God, if Decepticons burst out of the Antarctic ice sheet. Oh, that's so funny.
And they also had, the Decepticons, they came here because of a signal, right? I remember in the very first one, the very attractive Australian woman that was like, it's a signal. What was the other movie where they were under the ice? It was one of the Alien vs. Predator movies.
It was AVP. It was Aliens vs. Predator, the first one. Yeah,
where they were under the ice and they had to go get them. So
yep.
Very interesting stuff. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the news. I got some stories I'll save for tomorrow. I got to get prepared for Y Chromes. Let me pull up the Rumble rants here. Camo Hat Guy says, I went to high school with Mark Hortman, the speaker's husband.
Ooh.
Tragic loss of life, man. No matter what.
Awful.
Yeah. AH13, do you guys think this whole Iran nuclear weapon BS is leading Normieville to the U1 scandal with Hillary? Oops, I mean Hillary, Uranium One. Could be.
Possibly, but I would say that there are easier ways to get there. I mean, at this point, any of the uranium that Iran is going to be using is going to be so far removed from Hillary Clinton. But, who knows? We never know.
Yeah. C. Meadow says, my understanding is the damage Israel caused to those enrichment sites has caused leaking of radioactive materials. Decades of Iranian citizens will likely suffer from cancer, birth defects, etc.
Yeah. I have definitely heard that there is radiation that's leaking as a result. Yeah,
absolutely. And there's no question that that would be a known effect of attacking them. And look, Trump said, don't do it. Witkoff was meeting with them in 48 hours. Netanyahu had a pending, anyways.
Sorry, we've got an appointment already set with these ballistic missiles. I can't
it's just it's way too convenient, the timing of it all. So Jocelyn McGroin says, FYI, the parade permit was submitted by the U.S. Army in June of 24 and approved under the Biden administration.
Yeah. So also over on Foxhole, Country Girl 007, I think this is in regards to Stelter, says propaganda exactly. And then D. Dallid also dropped a cookie. So thank you very much for those guys.
All right. Well, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Y Chromes will be going at 1 p.m. So I'll see you guys in a little over an hour. And Zach, what do you got coming up, brother?
I'll be live at 5 p.m. Eastern on my channel for Red Pill News. And then tonight, John and I are continuing our conversation about Peter Thiel and Palantir.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys. Please smash that thumbs up on the way out. A little over 5,500 watching and 1.13 thousand thumbs up. That's actually pretty good. It's actually pretty good, but we need more. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.